Hello, my name is Adrienne and I'm going to teach you some basics about crochet. So first and foremost, I'm going to teach you about different tools that I use to make my crocheted items. The first and most important thing is the crochet hook, which you can see here. The difference between knitting and crochet is that with knitting you use 2 knitting needles, and in crochet you use 1 crochet hook. There are different styles of crochet hooks and different materials that they can be made out of. They can be made out of wood or bamboo or metal. I prefer metal, and it's just personal preference. They do come in different sizes, as you can see here, and the size really depends on what kind of yarn and how big of a yarn and you're using and what you're making. So the smallest one that I have here is a 2mm hook, which you can see is quite small. You would use this for very fine yarn or thread. The hook that I use often for worsted yarn, which is just your normal yarn, is a 3mm hook or 3.5mm hook. And the hooks that I use for my stuffed animals, which I use blanket yarn for, it's quite a lot thicker, is a 6 or a 7mm hook. The largest hook that I have in my set is a 10mm hook here, but you can get much bigger hooks that you can use with larger yarn, or if you want to make a looser type of project. You can also get hooks that have handles like this, and this is very nice for when you're using smaller hooks because it's a little bit more ergonomic and it's a little bit easier to hang on to. You can also get hooks like this that you can interchange with a handle. I actually prefer these types of hooks over this one, and the reason is because this is very sharp and it can catch on the yarn pretty easily. So I like to have this one, which has a little bit more of a rounded tip, and that's just also personal preference. So those are the crochet hooks. The next thing I'm going to talk about are some pins. So these are bamboo pins that you use when you are making stuffed animals, and they help to keep different pieces of your project in place while you're sewing them, so that you can make sure that they are symmetrical or they're placed appropriately where you want them before you start sewing. So these are very nice. The next thing is tapestry needle. So these are different tapestry needles that I have here. So you can get needles in plastic or metal. I do prefer metal just because the plastic can bend while you're working with it, and I do like the metal ones. And then also I like the ones that have a little bit of an angle here because it does make it a little bit easier when you're sewing pieces onto your stuffed animals. So these are quite nice, but you can get them in straight needles as well. In my opinion, they're a little bit more difficult to work with. The last tool that I'm going to talk about is your stitch marker. So these are stitch markers. They look like these little safety pins, and they are used to help to tell you where the beginning of your row or beginning of your round is when you're crocheting, so it's not as difficult to keep your count. So you always know where your beginning or your end is. So these are the tools that we will be using, and please check out my next video for learning how to make a single crochet stitch.